In the past week, there's been two big news affecting Malaysia. Number one would be Trump's tariff reduction or increase. I think it's an increase by 1%. And also Bank Negara reducing interest rates by 25 basis points.
Yeah.
Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out FIRL Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description. So how will this affect Malaysia?
Yep. So before that, Trump is back to his taco again. 3rd of July, if you guys can recall, right, he imposed like a 20% tariff on Vietnam. But then on the 9th of July, he actually took back the 20%. So Vietnam is like kind of like angry a little bit. It's like, I thought we have a deal, but then in the end, he chickened out again from the deal. And you also can see that most of our tariff rate, Malaysia, we increased 1%, right, 25%. And if you notice, every single country, also there's not much of a changes, except for countries like Laos. That one, at least they got like 8% discount. Myanmar also 4%. Cambodia also got a lot. But the Southeast Asia country is pretty much similar. And nothing much have changed since Liberation Day.
The only comfort I get from this is we are ranked quite low in terms of how angry Trump is at us, I guess. I would assume the higher the tariff, the less happy he is, you know.
Exactly. Iran also is like more than like 40%, 50%. So, and then we also have a retaliation. This is by Brazil. But what's interesting about this is that if you guys can recall, right, Trump is actually aiming countries that have a trade deficit with them. But in the case for Brazil, they actually have trade surplus. So which means it's like Brazil is actually buying more from the US. But they are still getting a 50% tariff from Trump. But from what I've read, right, from the news article, basically President Trump, he don't like the current Brazilian president, which is Lula. So he's like trying to find ways to like kick him out. I don't know what's the case. But yeah, there's some sort of retaliation also going on. And he said that, since Trump is putting 50%, even though we are buying a lot of US goods, we're also going to be like giving you a 50% in retaliation. And then not only just Brazil, recently there is EU and also Mexico. They are getting about like a 30% tariff rate also, even though they have been like negotiating for quite some time already, but in the end it's back to square one. But what's interesting is that this time around, the market didn't really react too much as compared to April, about 8 or 11 of April, during the Liberation Day. You can see that even market is like soaring, continue to soar despite all of this. I think also because the market thinks that
taco,
Trump,
right?
Yeah, taco.
Yeah, people know that whatever Trump puts out, right, it will not be what it is.
Yeah, so the market is kind of like pricing in on a base case scenario, which is he's gonna pull back and then he's going to give like a favorable tariff rate to all countries. But the downside of this is that what if he actually actually really implements like 25%?
Yeah, so you're correct. So one of the risks now is that taco keeps going around.
Yeah.
Right. If you recall 2 months ago when this term came about, and there was a journalist who asked Trump about this, his reaction was quite
angry.
He was quite angry. So if the market, if the media continues to push him that, hey, you're just chicken out, he may decide, right, to not chicken out. Because we use the word chicken out because I think a lot of people do not like Trump. However, if you think about what he's trying to do, it actually makes sense for his strategy, right? Is to put forward something very aggressive. Then hopefully the other side will start to give concessions and they will work a deal. So even him chickening out, putting it back in might be an effort to frustrate the other side, to basically force the other side to say, hey, look, what do you actually want? What do you want from us? And come out with an even better deal in Trump's eyes. But if you keep pushing him, then Trump himself might get frustrated and say, you know what, we will set it there.
Yeah. So right now, the market is still not pricing in the worst case scenario, which is something to look out for. And on the other hand, Bitcoin is going at its all-time high already. Obviously, because of all of this geopolitical tension, right? That's why the interest for Bitcoin is rallying. And what's interesting is that you can see that 10 months ago, this is 2024's data. So February 2024, if you look at individuals, businesses, and also funds, ETF, right? Last time they kind of like own not a lot. Like for example, businesses is like just 758,000 Bitcoin, then ETFs is about 818K Bitcoin. But if you look at 10 months later, you can see that businesses now they own about 900 over, and then the ETF side they own about 1.29K, whereas for the government actually shrink half. So and then individuals also is getting more and more. Well, this actually tells you that there is some sort of changes in terms of the whether is it currency or whether is it the people's trust on the USD, and also the US government is trying to try to get into the first mover advantage in terms of the stable coin and also for the Bitcoin, just in case the USD collapse, so they are the
first. I think it's called the Genius Act, right? They're doing
exactly. So yeah, I mean right now that for Bitcoin to stay at its higher, I probably also it makes sense because there is just so much of an interest at the moment. But that's the global side. And then for Malaysia, I mean, we also recently got hit by a 25% tariff. So right now, our bank Negara also start to being more, cautious about this, and they actually did a rate cut, a 25 basis rate cut. So right now, it's about 2.75% compared to
a lot of property people are quite excited now.
Yeah, and we also talk about this actually in March, 5th of March. We talk about there's a potential of a rate cut in our FIRL program. So if you're already in March, our predictions are pretty much accurate lah. And then another thing is that foreign funds also are out. You can see that even after the May acquisition, right now June and July they are still constantly selling. And then we have Goldman Sachs. They are basically saying that Malaysia is actually a downgrade right now because of all of these. Number one is the tariff rates. Number two is the AI chip export curb. So yeah, I mean Trump basically he named Malaysia and Thailand both of the targets whereby we're not going to get any NVIDIA chips, assuming these kind of implement come to fruition. So that's why the foreigners are actually out because of all of this uncertainty. Yeah, just now we discussed a little bit about what's the probability of him actually dishing out 20 to 40% tariff rate, right? I think if let's say for instance, like Malaysia, right? I mean, we have a lot of non-trade barriers. So, for instance, our AP, which is related to the automotive, we want to protect Proton and Perodras pricing to be competitive compared to foreigners, right? Number two is the halal.
The process, not the actual certification, but the speed of process.
Yes, correct. So these are the two things I'll say that it's I think our government would want to defend about these two. But what our government also did suggest, what if you can buy more beef from the US compared to Australia, right? But that's the only thing that they can actually negotiate. So what if this deal is not favorable for the US government? So I think worst case scenario is that, previously we talked about maybe they were getting about a 12 to 15% tariff rate, almost half. But now Vietnam is already removed. So most likely, I think the probability of 20% tariff rate to Malaysia and probably Southeast Asia is getting higher and higher. The odds of it lah. So don't be surprised if let's say if it's not less than 20%. I think if Trump's not getting what he wants, that is basically going to happen. But what is your take about this probability?
Yeah, we would have to revise up. That is for sure.
Yeah. So, and also, I think that with a 20% tariff, we might expect more rate cuts from BNM just in case our exporters are.
Yeah. So hopefully, Bursa can go up, as a result. But I think one thing that is not helping here is the Malaysian government is not telling us the right yet what are the things that are holding up the deal, because the deal was supposed to be settled by today, right? And even if it's not, at least explain to us, okay, what were the proposals given to the US side that clearly they are not too happy about. Do you just offer beef? That's it, right? If you think about it, that's not gonna.
Yeah, even though we did the origin of certificate, which is to curb the transshipment issue, right?
Yes.
Even though we had said that already, but then Trump, the fact that the US government basically just scrap it and then they say, you are still under our ban list from getting NVIDIA AI chip. I think that goes to tell you that I think they don't trust us.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, because we still have a very close tie with China.
Yeah, so there's a poll done by, I think, the ASEAN Yusof Institute, I think, something like that. I can't remember. but they put all the different countries in Southeast Asia, right? And they ask what if you had to choose which one you pick. So places like Philippines, Vietnam chose US, and then Singapore is like right in the middle. The ones that were most supportive of China would be Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yeah. So that goes to tell you that why getting a 20% tariff rate is might be possible. Second thing is Bitcoin is now more than USD. I mean, the market likes Bitcoin because USD is no longer a safe haven. So probably maybe Bitcoin is a safe haven. But even though that's the case, right? If you plan to like put in money in Bitcoin, I think you also need to understand what is really Bitcoin all about. There is also like certain experts or basically people who is trying to disrupt Bitcoin. There also are smart people are trying to do that. They're trying to crack the Bitcoin code, defensive code, but they still haven't succeeded yet. But if it succeeds, I think Bitcoin also have another problem. So that is a risk to be mindful of. And then the last point is basically a rate cut, whether it will be a start of a bull run. Well, if you actually look back at previous market crashes, right? The first rate cut actually don't really boost up the stock market. In fact, it's actually just to curb like a potential slowdown, or actually they already anticipate there will be a slowdown already coming in the second half. So what's to actually look forward to is post-tariff rate, like let's say what the finalize of everything, right? Whether Malaysia can continue to export more compared to 2023, 2024 to the US or to the entire world. If they cannot, then potentially they may need to do another rate cut again. So if you actually compare the graph between the KLCI index and interest rate, right, it's actually quite interesting. Whenever there's like a rate cut, it's not 100% correlation, but when they do a rate cut, right, KLCI actually went down. And then they realized that the economy is still not like recovering, so they have to do another rate cut, then the economy go down, then until like a certain base. So I think for us to conclude whether there will be a bull run, I think it's quite difficult because of it kind of like cancel down because of this tariff war. But definitely it would benefit certain sectors in the domestic market. So property is one because of lower monthly installment or lower interest rate. Number two is going to be construction also, assuming it's like domestically built construction. And number three is basically companies that is not non-property, non-construction, but they are selling stuff like consumer products in Malaysia and they are expanding their business. They also will be benefiting. But that is too soon to conclude that it will cause a bull run for Malaysia. But yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
No, nothing much to add.
Yeah. So if you want to know more what companies we are eyeing on in Malaysia, you can check out FIRL Pro. And this is our June 2025's performance.
And this July one will be a bit better, I believe.
Yeah, it'll be better slightly, especially for the FIRL Pro Global. One of our stock is actually almost doubled already.
Yeah,
even though we initiated like 3 months or 4 months ago.
Yep.
So yeah, if you want to know what are the global names that we have initiated there, do check out FIRL Pro. And also we have a dividend portfolio. If you like cash flows on a monthly basis, you do check out the boring portfolio and can see that the dividend yield right now is about 6.43%, which is higher than EPFs. And if you want to get a taste, you want to see how we do our write-ups, how we analyze companies, you can check out our free sample. Just to give you an example, this is Delium. It's a company that we have initiated around like the late 2023. We bought it around like 70 cents, if I can recall correctly. And then we sold it around like 140-ish. So it's like a double after, I will say, 1.5 years of holding. And if you want to know how we discovered this company, why we think it was interesting back then, you can read the sample. It is totally free. And also we did a write-up on KGB and we share it for free in the free sample. So if you notice, KGB share price is going up on the all-time high already. So if you want to know how we discover them, do check out our free sample. And also you can get a 10% discount off for FIRL Pro. The links will be in the description and comments. So that's about it for today's video.
Bye-bye.
See you guys next week.